Welcome to Losing a Child, Always Andy's Mom. On this podcast, we journey through the devastating experience of the death of a child. Grief is seldom discussed openly in our culture, and the death of a child makes people feel even more uncomfortable. We approach the topic openly and honestly, speaking to people who have lost loved ones and experts who help care for them. Whether you are a parent experiencing loss or someone who wants to support another going through this tragedy, this podcast strives to offer hope and help.
Welcome to episode number 345 of Losing a Child, Always Andy's Mom. I'm Marcy Larson, Andy's mom. Today I have the pleasure to reintroduce you to Jam. Jam is Taylor's mom, and Jam has been on previously. Jam was on episode number 157, so we talk about that quite a bit. We talk a lot about how I really got to know Jam well because she joined one of the Starlight support groups that I help with the facilitating of. Now there are several online groups, so if you are interested in that, certainly email me, marcy@andysmom.com, or even better, go ahead and go to starlightmen.org and you can email that way to try to get involved in one of those groups. After the end of our first conversation that we had, I invited Jam to join one of those support groups. And if you've been on and I haven't invited you, I invite you now. I just felt at the time I invited her in person because she was so fresh and so early in her grief. And I thought, gosh, she really needs this. She really, really needs it. But I think everyone can benefit from being in a support group. And I love the support groups that we have through Starlight. I love the current group that I have. The current group of ladies is amazing. So if you are interested, and maybe not for the spring session, but maybe starting again when it starts back up in the fall, just go to starlightmen.org and find out more information. Because I really think Starlight was a huge part of my grief journey. It was a huge part of Jam's grief journey. And I think it can be a huge benefit to so many people. And I'm so glad that we can now spread this out and invite people from all over the world to be a part of this ministry and not just have it be for people in West Michigan as it was when I started just 3 weeks after Andy died. When I originally recorded this episode with Jam, there wasn't a sponsor for this week's episode. But a couple of days after that recording, I got an email that sort of stopped me in my tracks. So I'm just going to read that to you right now. This is an email from Julie. Julie wrote, "Thank you for sharing about your Andy and for opening doors for others to share about their precious children who are loved and missed every day. Hashtag say their name. I'd like to sponsor an episode in honor and memory of Andy's birthday in April." That just means so much to me to have someone that I don't even know want to sponsor an episode, not in their child's name, but in mine. So thank you so much, Julie. It does mean a lot to me. And it's, I think, extra special that on Andy's birthday week, the episode has a sponsorship for Andy. So thank you for that, Julie. If you would like to sponsor an episode, you can go to the donate page and click on the donate. You can also go to givebutter.com and search for me there. Search for Always Andy's Mom. Again, a donation of $125 dedicates an episode to whoever you want to dedicate it to. So thank you so much for that. Right now, I just want you to sit back and listen to Jam, Taylor's mom. Thank you so much, Jam, for coming on the Always Andy's Mom podcast today.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I'm excited. Oh, I'm sure that people can probably hear my smile across the airwaves here. Even if you're not watching the video, you're hearing me smile because I am just so happy to have Jam back on.
I am excited to be here.
Just as a little bit of a reminder, so Jam has been on in the past, and you know how we've talked about how we're having a few guests on who've been on before at the suggestion of one of my listeners. So that is happening again. And you are the third one, sort of the fourth one if we go way back a little bit further, but the third one of my kind of new reset after the little bit of a break here. And we picked a very special day to have this released on.
Yeah.
It's so funny because Jam reached out and she said, I think I want to come back on again. And I looked at the calendar and I knew exactly what week to do it.
Yeah.
Because this release date is April 23rd, and April 23rd is the anniversary of Taylor's death. And it is 2 days after April 21st, which is Andy's birthday and would be Andy's 22nd birthday. And I always kind of like to do something special on Andy's birthday week because it just feels right to do that. You know, I've done different things with Gwen that week, but when you reached out, I knew exactly what had to happen this week. Exactly. Yeah. I didn't want to do this week with anybody else.
No,
I really didn't.
Well, thank you. Thank you. I think it's pretty special. I mean, our life is so different, and but you are a big part of our life now. So it's just interesting to see how things have come kind of full circle since our first interview together. So.
Well, and it's been a long time because you were on way back now, episode number 157, and I interviewed you 4 months after Taylor's death. Mm-hmm. And now, because let's see, what year anniversary is this now?
It'll be 4. 3? No, it'll be 4.
4.
Yeah.
Holy cow, Jam.
Yeah.
I was thinking to myself, it couldn't be more than 3, but it's 4. No, you're right.
4.
It is.
Yeah.
That's.
Yeah. I know.
It's hard to wrap your head around, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, totally. Totally. It's just mind blowing.
Yeah. So we're going from 4 months to 4 years.
4 years.
And
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think this is exactly what Lee, that the person who wrote in and said she wanted to hear more from people further on. I think this is exactly what she wanted.
Yeah. And it's such a great suggestion.
Really, is somebody who went from fresh to now 4 years out.
Yeah. It's such a great suggestion that she did that. I think it's just nice to kind of see like, okay, I'm doing this, you know, and
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly.
Because you put such high expectations on where you think you should be, you know, and then when you hear someone else and you're like, okay, all right. They're still, you know, feeling the feeling sometimes. And so I think that was a great suggestion.
No, I do too. And I hope that more people do. You are the last of the ones that are scheduled for right now, but I do hope that more people kind of come out and say, hey, I'd like to do this as well, because I think it's really, really going to be helpful to people to kind of just see. And hopefully they do go back and listen. You know, even if you heard Jam the first time, go back and listen again. I mean, I know I took some time to read what I had written, just getting myself back to kind of where we were, and then so we can come back to where we are now. So I don't know how, I mean, I feel like we should start, though, again, in case somebody hasn't had the time to go back and listen, by just talking a little bit about Taylor again. And I have to tell you, I've now had 4 Taylors on. Your original Taylor, though.
Yeah.
Original Taylor.
Love it. That's a good name.
It is a good name. It's a good name. All right. So do you want to start out by just talking about Taylor?
Sure. Taylor Olivia George was born in October of 2008, and she is a twin. She was twin A, came out weighing a whopping 1 pound, 1 ounce at 26 weeks of my pregnancy. Spent a good amount of time in the neonatal ICU, actually the hospital where I work. And then we kind of transitioned out of the NICU to home, and our first part of our life was full of therapies, you know, to catch up on any milestones. And she was premature, but we did great with speech therapy and all those things. And she was just a thriving young lady, a sweet soul, very gentle.
Yeah.
gave the best hugs, loved to just kind of compliment. She never met a stranger. That girl would compliment people that she had never met. I mean, just, and was just so honest and just tenderhearted and just a great kid. We lost Taylor in April of 2022 at the age of 13. She basically, to make a long story short, she had an undiagnosed medical condition that we were unaware of until we kind of got in the trenches of everything, called May-Thurner syndrome. But basically, her blood vessels in her lower extremities, basically how she was born, had a narrowing in it, and it put her to be more predisposed to blood clots. And so she developed a blood clot in her leg. We spent some time in the Children's Hospital here in Dallas, and we tried doing medication to intervene for her blood clot in her leg, but it didn't help. And so we went in surgically to try to remove it, and she coded on the table. She had a pulmonary embolism, and they were able to revive her. They put her on a heart-lung bypass machine called ECMO. She was in the ICU for a few days, and the day that she was doing great, and the day we were about to try to transition her off of that machine, she developed a brain bleed. And so we tried to do surgical intervention to resolve that, but she really did not get much brain function. And my husband and I, we just had to make the very difficult decision to withdraw care because we didn't want her to have that quality of life.
Yeah.
So we lost her very unexpectedly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, she went from just a healthy, happy 13-year-old girl to, over the course of just a few days, going from, the leg's a little swollen to losing her.
Yeah. We were definitely blindsided, and so we still, sometimes I still have moments where I'm trying to wrap my mind around I hear a lot of bereaved parents call it the before and after, and it's just kind of like how life was before, and just she was here one day and then she never came back, Yeah. So
yeah,
it's
I do remember you describing Taylor that first time, and I remember thinking about just how much compassion she had. And I thought how that was not a very common word to use for a 13-year-old girl, but I really felt like she embodied compassion.
She really did. Taylor's twin, Morgan, has autism with intellectual disability and speech impairment. So she's currently still in a functional academics class. And so Taylor was like her second mom, and they were latchkey kids. And Taylor was in charge of getting them in the house from school, getting the snacks, helping Morgan get her bath and things like that. So she was just such a good helper, and she loved her sister. I mean, to her, her sister was just Morgan. She didn't see any disability. So she had just a caring heart. I am so blessed. I was like, I know that I haven't done very many things right, I feel like, in my life, but I definitely think we did good with making her a good human being.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know. That's the thing that just was overwhelming to me when learning more and more about Taylor is just what a just great, amazing kid, and just showing so much love and compassion. You talked about how at lunchtime, she had lots of friends herself.
Yeah.
Right? But what did she do? She went and sat with her sister and other special needs kids, right? That's that kind of heart she had to always want to just help people out and be their friend. And anyway, just amazing.
She could ride the bus with the general, the kids that were in the general population, and she chose to ride the special needs bus with her sister to and from school. She was just, she just loved being around her sister, and, just such a helper to anyone, and I remember a story that one of Morgan's teacher told us, that one day that she was sitting beside Morgan at the lunch table, and she was sitting in what was known as Taylor's spot, and Taylor walked up, and she just kind of stood there, and she was like, excuse me, but this is my seat. I always sit by my sister at lunch, and just so kind. And they just thought it was the cutest thing, because she was like, this is what I do, and so it was just so funny.
And very polite about it, but also I'm not sitting somewhere else.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. So she was a good kid, granted she was 13. So she was starting to have, some of the, she wasn't an angel. I'm not going to say that, she was like any other teenager, but tenderhearted where she didn't want to disappoint you. If she thought that she had done something to disappoint, that was what was the worst for her. Not any, punishment or whatever she could possibly get, which the girl really didn't do much, to get in trouble, but she just didn't want to disappoint it. She would always say, "Mom, are you proud of me?" Or, things like that. And so, we miss her a lot.
That reminds me very much of Andy.
Mm-hmm.
That was one thing they definitely had in common. They really, he just never wanted to disappoint me either.
Yeah.
And that was kind of really worst thing for him. And
yeah, for sure.
It's funny because obviously now Jam joined one of our support groups and it was kind of feels like my original kind of support group that I had. And we get together and have. So the first time she was on, obviously, was long before that. It was before you were even on, because I remember getting done recording, and I said, I really, really, really want you to come to this support group. I really do. Do you remember that?
Yes.
I pushed you so hard because I was like, you would so fit. Like, I could just tell that you would just fit with this group of women, and you were so hurting, but just had such a light about you, and you would fit. And then you came.
That moment, I think about it all the time, Marcy, because it was such a life-changing moment. Like, it has really directed, and helped direct the path. Since losing Taylor, you invited me to Starlight, and doing the program was so helpful in, me grieving and learning how to, start healing and moving forward. And I met some of the best women I have ever, now I've been able to call them friends, including you.
Yeah.
I remember the first time recording, I was just like, oh gosh, I'm so nervous because this is this lady who has this awesome podcast, and I've listened and binged every episode, and I'm so nervous. I want to tell my story, and now, like today, I feel like I'm just talking to a friend, because you are my friend, and so it's just really, I'm so thankful. I'm thankful to my friend who sent me your podcast to listen. One of my very good friends, she sent it to me, and she's like, whenever you're ready, I think this is a great podcast to listen. I've been listening a few episodes now, and it's on child loss, and I'm so glad she sent that. I tell her that all the time, how she changed the course of my life. And then you doing the podcast and inviting me to Starlight has just been, it's been great. I hate, obviously we hate that we know each other through this.
Yeah.
We would change anything for it, but I am so thankful that I have y'all to stand in the gap, while we wait to see our babies again.
Well, and it's funny because you joined in that fall, and then the next spring we decided to get together in person for the very first time. And you have to tell the story of you coming because you were a little nervous about it, even though you'd seen us on the screen.
So nervous. I was so nervous. I have never traveled by myself, like on an airplane. I travel, but I'm always with a group of people or my spouse. And so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm traveling by myself. And then my sister's like, you don't know those people. And I was like, well, I do know them. I've seen them on Zoom. And she was like, that doesn't count. And so I have her in the back of my, head being, because it's previously to, I guess, to back up, my mom passed 3 months before Taylor.
Yeah.
And so my sister had promised my mom that she would take care of me. So she went into that protective big sister mode, and she was standing on her business. My mama told me to protect my sister. And
and then you lost Taylor.
People. Yeah. So she was so protective. And I was like, you know what? I feel something with these ladies, and I'm going to do it. And I was so scared. I had never heard of Hocking Hills. I was just like,
went to Ohio.
Went to Ohio. And man, I'm so glad I did, because it was such a healing experience. And then it just helped remind me I'm not alone. And listening to your podcast, shows that you're not alone. But just we as a group developed something so special, and I'm so grateful that we've been able to kind of carry that out, year after year. So I'm Starlight, man, such a big impact.
Well, and didn't you have a friend take you to the airport or something, and you were nervous about?
Yes.
I remember you thinking like, I don't know. And you wanted to kind of back out, and
yeah,
she was pushing you to not.
Yeah, she's like, you are not gonna do that. You are gonna go, and it's gonna be good, Jam. And and it was my best friend. And that girl can pull me through anything. She is my other person, is my husband, and then Lori, and she can talk me off the ledge. And she's like, this is gonna be good. You have talked about how you've enjoyed doing the Zoom with these ladies and how it's really been inspirational. And I think this is a good thing. I think God is lining this up for you. And she was like, we know where you're going.
Yeah.
She was like, you're going to be fine. And I was like, well, I've never traveled by myself. And she was like, well, you know what? This is a new experience. You are going to be experiencing a lot of new with losing Taylor, and you're going to be finding yourself as a new person. And when she said that, that was totally the truth. And yeah, I'm so glad that I went.
And that first year when we met, that was almost exactly the year mark when you met us.
Yeah.
Too.
It was. Mm-hmm. It was. And so that month, that April it was nice to be with other people who knew.
Yeah.
Especially moms. Because obviously my husband has lost Taylor, but men and women just grieve so differently. Yeah. And so someone who could just understand not even losing the child, but just being a mother and what that meant. It was helpful for me to because that first year mark it was actually, I remember in one of our Starlights, one of the moms saying that year 2 and 3 would be harder.
Yeah.
And I remember my face.
I remember that. I remember that.
I remember my face. I'm like,
your face was so bad. And I was like, and then what was bad? It was bad because I said, but it doesn't have to be like that for everyone. Because I looked at your face and it was so like, oh my word, I can't imagine this being worse.
Yeah.
And so I was trying to do that. And then I hurt the other woman's feelings because she thought I wasn't like listening to her and taking that seriously. But really I was looking at you and trying to protect you. And it was a day I screwed up. I didn't do it well, but I don't know that there wasn't doing it well. I just wanted you to not feel so bad. And then
because both sides of it are true.
Right. Yeah, I know.
Both sides of that is so true. But I was just like, oh, so I was so nervous, just like, because that first year I was like, this is awful. And how am I going to do this? And then year 2 hit and I was like, oh, I see exactly what she's saying. Right. And
it was true, but I just don't. I tend to not want to say that too much on the podcast or in support groups or things like that because I don't want to be discouraging.
Yeah.
I guess I think back to believe it was my second week. My second week, I was in a great group. I was in an in-person Starlight group. Obviously, Starlight's based out here in West Michigan. And one of the leaders said, I didn't feel like myself for 9 years. Mm. Okay. Freaked me out. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
All I could think in my head was, I cannot feel like this for 9 years.
Yeah.
Okay. I was 4 weeks in. Like, if I feel like this for 9 years, like, Lord, take me. I can't live like this for 9 years. Mm-hmm. And so I was really, really panicky. Now, I know, given time, I realized that is not what she meant.
Right.
She did not mean that at 8 years she felt exactly like she did at 4 weeks. No.
Right.
What she meant is it's funny. I just interviewed a couple from Canada here a month or 2 ago. And she talked about, she hit the 5-year mark and she all of a sudden had this epiphany and like, oh, here I am. Mm-hmm. This is me. Yeah. So for her, it was 9 years. It was at that 9-year point that like, oh, here I am. This is me. I am back to me.
Everybody's so different.
Not probably the same me, but still feeling pretty much like how you felt. So I think it takes varying amount of times for
different people. Uh-huh.
But it freaked me out so much. So then I think that's why you were early, it was like your 3rd week or something.
Yeah.
Then that comment was said. And I thought, this is going to scare her like it did me.
Yeah.
So
especially her face.
So then that's why I had to then have a talk with the other woman whose feelings I definitely hurt, saying, you're right. I know you are right. But I can't. She just can't be scared like that. Like, did you see her start to cry? She was scared. Like that. It's just
Yep.
a really terrifying thought of being like stuck
Yeah.
in the
It
same
is
place.
very terrifying.
Yeah, or heaven forbid it being worse. And it does. I mean, it's so funny because some things are worse and some things aren't worse, right? I mean,
Yeah.
there are things about the second year that are definitely worse. There are things that are not worse as well. It's just that everything's so different.
Everything is so different. Day to day, everything is just so different.
Yeah. And I do think that first 6 months to a year, you're just so numb and
Yeah.
you just can't feel it all.
Yeah.
That's why whenever I have people on like you that are so fresh, I keep thinking, "Oh, honey, and you're just numb yet." You know,
Yeah.
cuz
You're numb.
you can't feel it all and you think you're feeling it all, but you can't yet. And it's your body protecting you for sure.
Yes, it definitely is your body protecting you. And that first year, I think you have, I remember when I recorded with you and and I'm not disputing that it was the Holy Spirit that was getting me through, her funeral service and all the things. But I think I truly was just in shock.
Yeah.
And I think my body was protecting me and I was just numb to everything and just kind of going through the motions.
And I think you're right. I think sometimes you end up attributing that to your faith or to, and not that that's not true, but
Right.
I know. So there's a Bible study that I went to for many, many years, and I can tell you the exact last day I went to the Bible study. And the last day I went to the Bible study is when the lecturer was giving a talk and talking about how a guy had lost his 4-month-old baby, and then a few months later, his wife died. Okay, so he lost them both in the matter of like 3 months or something. I mean, really close together. It was horrible. It was horrible. And that was their only child. So now he's alone. And her talk was about how on Easter Sunday, like 6 weeks after his wife died, only not even 6 months after his son died, he was sitting up at the front of church next to the pastor on Easter Sunday. And he was such a testament. And I was mad.
Yeah.
Because that's not what was happening.
Yeah.
That was not what was happening. Like,
Yeah.
he was numb. He could feel nothing. He was still in shock, I mean, it's funny because my therapist was also in that lecture. So I show up to therapy the next week and I talked about that. And she goes, "Oh, I knew that would make you mad." I mean, she knew it would make me mad. And she was like, as she's listening to it, she's like, "Oh, you need to stop. You need to stop. You need," because she didn't have any idea what she was talking about, right?
Yeah.
And really, truly, this man was numb. And he could not absorb it all yet. He couldn't. So what do you do when you can't absorb it all yet? Yeah, you lean into your faith, and that's wonderful. And I'm so glad he did. But she had it so wrapped up in such a neat package that like, he's just leaning on God. He's totally fine. He's like, that's just what you need to do. And I thought the worst was yet to come for him. Like, but she didn't know that. She didn't know.
Yeah.
And I should give her more grace. And now in hindsight, telling that story again, I really should give her more grace because she didn't know.
Yeah.
But it just made me upset because I felt like it's just such a bad example to give to all of these people, because now if heaven forbid that happens to them
And they can't do that.
and they can't be up sitting next to the pastor. Let me tell you, my first Easter after Andy died, it was his birthday. Easter Sunday was Andy's birthday. I went to church. We had a beautiful bouquet of flowers up in the front for him. And I was throwing up in the bathroom in the middle. I mean, that's what I was doing. I wasn't sitting up next to the pastor. And I don't think I was doing something wrong compared to him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't. Just because I was thrown up in the bathroom and he was sitting up front.
Right.
That's why you just, everybody's spiritual journey is just so different. And I feel like in general, like my spirituality is so much better and stronger, and my faith is stronger than it was before.
Oh, totally.
But I still wasn't able to sit up in the front of the church. I sing in my church band. It took me 3 years to go and sing again
Mm-hmm.
in my church, in the band.
Yeah.
Right? 3 years.
Yeah.
So, I don't know.
And I think it's also like this stigma that if you question,
Yeah.
God about that circumstance, or don't fully just, lean, how we've learned that people say things that are not helpful.
Yeah.
And when they think it's helpful, and then we have to, extend grace a lot, and that we become like the teachers to others who haven't experienced grief, about what we need, or, what's helpful and what's not helpful. But I think that a lot of people feel like if you don't just totally submit to this whole thing and not be sad about it or whatever, and just know that this is God's plan, that you are not walking in, your faith and being a good Christian. But I'm like, God still loves me when I get mad at him that he's taking my child, and
Yeah. Right. It's nothing's going to change that.
yeah, even if she really belonged to him and he lent her to me, he still loves me when I am mad. I go in my pouting fits and I don't talk to him for a while because I'm throwing a temper tantrum. He still loves me, and I think a lot of people they just don't see that, as it just has to be black or white,
Yeah. I 100% agree. I feel like my relationship with God feels much more like a true father-daughter experience. Because, again, I threw temper tantrums as a kid.
Yeah,
and I know
for
my
sure.
parents weren't happy with me. But I also know they still loved me.
Right. They were always still going to be there. Yep.
They were always going to still be there. Right. So that's why I feel like now I can throw some temper tantrums every once in a while. And that's all right. And I don't do it like I used to, but.
Right.
You
Yeah,
know,
for sure.
I can still do. It's not fair. This isn't fair. Because you know what? It isn't fair.
Yeah.
It isn't fair. And it doesn't feel right.
It's the thing that, like it's not the normal order to bury your child.
Yeah.
And so and I know, I struggle every day. Is there a day that goes by that I don't think about Taylor? Think about her every single day. But I can still think about her and function, and it's fine. But then like these months leading up to her having day, they become a little bit more challenging.
Yeah.
And I really have to work hard to not let myself go into that dark place.
Yeah.
But if I have a day where I go, I know God is like, I'm going to still be here,
Yeah.
And so it's just thank God there, for the people who've never had experience losing a child, but it is a different type of grief.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
So
it really is. And you can say that so with so much honesty, I would say, because you did lose your mom right before losing Taylor.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I lost my mom years before losing Andy, but yours were really back to back. So I feel like, you got to be able to believe you when you say it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's such a different layer too, because I never even had a chance to really grieve my mom. I went right into the storm of Taylor and grieving Taylor. And so that was another challenge, going into year 2 and 3, is because, man, I missed my mom, and I wish I had my mom to lean on the loss of my child,
Yeah.
And
did you find yourself grieving your mom then later?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, definitely. And so, like, I was, think about her a lot or whatever, and I was just thinking about how I miss, just her laughter and that kind of stuff. And I was like, and I try to, say, man, what a great day it's going to be when I can just be reunited with those two, and just wonder, what are those two up to, up in heaven. I could just only imagine, my mom was so proud of her grandchildren, and so.
Yeah. Well, and my mom never got to meet any of hers, right? Because I was in college when she died. So, I mean, I'm sure she was awfully excited to see Andy.
Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine she wasn't sad for me, but.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. Yeah, it's just a whole nother layer.
Yeah. Well, why don't we talk about kind of your grief journey and the different things that you've done, and because that's really one of the things we want to really focus on is kind of how things have changed and what you've been able to do and all of that over these last now 3.5+ years.
So, as I mentioned, I started with Starlight, and I did that for about 2 years, and
And
met
that's
you
because we
like,
have a 2-year curriculum, just to
yeah,
kind of remind people of that. And if you want to, starlightmen.org, to go on there right
yeah,
now. We've got sessions going on. So, okay.
highly recommend. And fairly soon after Taylor, well, I guess in that same time with the first interview with you, 4 months later, I started a foundation in Taylor's honor. And at that point, I really had no clue of what I wanted to do. Not a clue,
Yeah.
but I just knew I was so afraid of her spirit dying and, her not being remembered. And I wanted to do something to honor her, but I had no clue of what I wanted to do. And so started the foundation, and I knew like the 1 year mark on her heaven date, I wanted to do something big to honor her. I didn't know if it was a balloon release or what. Put together a 5K. It turned out great. We raised a good amount of money. I was blown away. And so that kind of just led to me working with the Children's Hospital and one of the social workers that is over the ICU. And I was just like, I want to do care packages for parents. And because I just knew I was leaning back on the things that were so helpful to my family when we were in the ICU with Taylor. And so I knew I wanted to do that. And then that led to us doing garage sales and just things to kind of build up and donations. And then it just kind of started where I was like, you know what? People blessed us so much. And I couldn't have done any of the things that we were able to do as far as like Taylor's funeral and being able to stay off, because I'm a nurse, and I was able to stay off work for about 6 months after Taylor passed. And so those things wouldn't have been possible without like the kindness that people did for us. And so I was like, I want parents who have children in the intensive care unit or who lose their children to be able to really have one less worry.
Yeah.
And so that led to our foundation helping with burial expenses, or just like, we've had a couple of families who've had a child that's passing and they're trying to get the sibling from out of state to come say goodbye. So we funded those trips. And if someone was like struggling with the rent and stuff like that, we've been able to use our fundraising money for that as well. So that has really, brought my heart joy. It's kind of like one of those things, the beauty out of the ashes is that we've been able to help so many families, in honor of Taylor, just to take one less burden. And I think we had our meeting back in January. And I think we've been able to donate towards 10 families who've lost children.
Wow.
So we've done that, and we have done, this year will make our 3rd year giving away 2 scholarships to the high school where Taylor would have graduated from and where Morgan attends. And we've done book donations and just a lot of good things. And so it's made me so thankful that even though I didn't have an idea of what I wanted to do besides care packages, that we've been able to help so many people who are just going through, one of the worst moments in their life.
Yeah.
And so done that.
What's the name of your organization again?
It is Mayflowers. Since she had the Maythorners, it's Mayflowers, the Taylor George Foundation.
Yeah.
And you can look us up on social media. But we did that, and life changed a lot for my husband, because at that time he was working Monday through Friday, 3 to 11. And so, and I was just 3 days a week. And with our other daughter, Morgan, with her disability, it has to be an adult with her at all times. And so he now works nights, which is kind of hard for him, just because he's a little older than I am. And so it's kind of one of those things where we do the swap off game, on the days that I have to work and he's, getting off. It's a 4 o'clock or, 4:45 at the latest, me getting Morgan up, getting her fully dressed for school and heading out the door by 5:45 to, meet each other halfway. And he takes her home, puts her on the bus. He goes to sleep. I go to work. And so, that's our life 3 days a week, which that was a change. And a struggle. And sometimes it still is a struggle that I get so mad. I'm like, I'm having to wake my kid up this early in the morning to meet my husband because Taylor died. And so a lot of that I still struggle with at times. I'm thankful that he was able to find a job who would work with our, crazy hours instead of the 11 at night to 7 in the morning. Knowing that I'm a nurse, they do 10 and 6. I'm so grateful. And the job has been so kind. And I know that's a blessing that God has allowed us, but I still have my moments where I'm like, God, I hate doing this to my kid, and So that's, an adjustment. And we're still trying to find our way as, we call ourselves the Three Amigos now. And just, figuring out what's best for us. And now Morgan's turning 18 in October. And so it's kind of like trying to do the things that's going to set her up for, her best adult, life. And so it's just different. I go through the things I'm sure every parent has gone to. And a double whammy is having twins, because Taylor didn't have any disability. And so I'm missing out on that 16-year-old, getting her driver's license and getting her first car and having the first boyfriend, and the college applications and all those things that, I'll never experience, and so that's hard, celebrating one kid on her birthday and then the other one's, in heaven. So that poses a challenge, all the time. But
well, and I think too, another challenge that I'd love for you to touch on is having a special needs child grieving, because that has not been easy for you.
No.
It's not been easy. I know for like teachers to navigate and things like that, because they really, truly do not understand.
Yeah, that is, and that's another thing, that is hard sometimes, because I don't really know what Morgan understands. Does she? Yes, she was at the funeral, but does she really know what that meant? I know she knows her sister was here one day and walked out of the house and never walked back in, and she had that absence is there. And with her speech impairment, she can't verbalize to us, her feelings. But we definitely knew her behaviors of self-harm were getting more severe. Our first year going to a new school without Taylor was awful. There's no other words to describe it but awful. We were having to pick her up from school so many times for harming herself. She was always in the nurse's office because she has busted her lip open or, something, or they've had to use restraints, or because she couldn't verbalize her frustration,
and they couldn't. I mean, the new school too, I know was hard because they didn't know Taylor.
Yeah,
they didn't see the girl that used to come. I mean, her sister used to sit with her every single day at lunch. She went with her on the bus every single day. Yeah. And she obviously does not communicate great, so she's not easily expressing what she's going through. And I think those teachers had a very hard time understanding.
They definitely did that first year. And I know Morgan was grieving Taylor because for a while we had a slideshow at Taylor's funeral service. And the first song on there was Life is a Highway by Rascal Flatts. And for a period of time, Morgan played that song over and over and over and over again. Yeah. And I know that she, I know that when Taylor first passed, we would go to the cemetery and she would never get out the car. Or if we were passing where Taylor was laid to rest, she'd turn her head and do this. So I know she kind of can piece it together, but she can't verbalize, I'm sad today because I miss Taylor. So that was a big challenge. And the first year was just awful. I mean, I considered homeschooling, which, whoa, I didn't even think we would make it through COVID virtual learning. So I'm like, but it was that severe because I was just at a loss of what to do. And the second year, we were still in the same classroom, and I was just begging because the behaviors had already started 2 weeks into school. And I just begged for a different classroom to see if maybe a new teacher would be a better fit. And they changed her, and it has been the best experience since then. Her teacher and the staff in that classroom are amazing. They have they've taken time to learn about the relationship that those girls had. And so her teacher is amazing. I feel like Morgan minds her better than she does us because her teacher can really say, Morgan's having a hard day and I really feel that this is what needs to be done. Or she's like, oh, she's just being a lazy teenager. Like she and Morgan totally, it's just interesting to see their relationship because when Morgan knows she's, done something she shouldn't do and her teacher comes to me and was like, let me tell you, she's like, oh no, Griffin, You know, she doesn't have very many words, but her teacher's name is Miss Griffin. And she's like, no, Griffin, you know, and so it's just so funny because her teacher is just, she's amazing. And so these last, 2 years have been a lot better for us. And so that was one less stress because I'm like, gosh, we're still trying to find our way of what we're doing. Like I'm still searching for what God's plan is for me. I still don't know what his direction is for me. I question being a nurse, labor and delivery nurse, is that still what I need to be doing? Or am I supposed to be doing more with this foundation? I don't know, and I'm really questioning it a lot right now because our first 3 events that we had in Taylor's honor, we brought in so much financially. And this year it's like the numbers are not as high. So I'm like, okay, God, are you showing me that, maybe we just need to make this the best celebration and then trend somewhere else? I don't know.
Yeah.
So I'm just kind of still praying for clarity, and hopefully I'll get it soon. But, as you know, that this is just something we have to walk through and just kind of see where,
yeah,
he leads us. So.
Well, I think that's a good point. It goes back to that trying to find some purpose,
mm-hmm.
which is a hard thing to think about early on. But once you get further in, you do
mm-hmm.
want to think about that, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's
mm-hmm.
the conversation I just had with Stephanie not that long ago about finding purpose and what is my purpose. And, even me taking that month of February off, I really did try to evaluate purpose a little bit
mm-hmm.
again and try
mm-hmm.
to figure out what am I doing and where should I be going? And is this the right path for me still?
Yeah.
And I think it's good for all of us to kind of reevaluate that.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
Stephanie is a great example of this. Her purpose
yes.
was definitely going and helping be the director of Starlight for number of years, but now it's not, right? And she knew it was time to step away.
Yeah.
I
was like, man, that was such a revelation that she did that, pretty fresh out of losing her child, and then now she's trying to figure out what's next for her. And I don't think that's a bad thing,
No, I don't at all.
That's something I'm having to remind myself, is that even though I haven't narrowed down exactly what I'm supposed to, I'm still healing in some kind of way. I'll never be the same person I was before Taylor died, like that person, but I'll be a different person, but I feel like I'm also a better person,
Yeah, right.
But would I trade anything for my child?
Yes, 100%.
100%. But I don't think it's bad if you are year 4 or 9 and still trying to figure out what you're,
Yep.
what are you meant to do while you wait to see your child again.
Yeah. Yeah. I just think that's just such a great point, and that it can change.
Mm-hmm.
And just because something is right today doesn't mean
mm-hmm.
it's right next month
mm-hmm.
or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
mm-hmm.
all of these things can change. And honestly, that was a really great revelation to me to have just recently, is that this can look different and it can
mm-hmm.
keep looking different, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. Because especially at that, if nothing else materializes out of this foundation, and I pray for it all the time, for us to be able to continue to help families. At least I know for this year to this year, we made such an impact on some people's lives.
Right.
And like we've helped so many people in that time. This is what we were able to do, in honor of Taylor. So.
And if it goes on forever, great. And if it doesn't go on forever, that's fine too.
That's okay.
Right?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That season,
okay.
Seasons change, so yeah.
Well, other thoughts, other things you wanted to make sure we covered today?
Just give yourself grace.
Yeah.
Be gentle with yourself. Don't compare your journey to anybody else's. Things will look different over time. Lean into the people that you have that are there.
Yeah.
I know that first year I had so many people there, and then just know that things change over years. You may have some people who kind of fizzle out, and that's okay. Yeah. Friendships will look different. Family, dynamics will look different, but you will find your way through it all.
Yeah.
But definitely just have grace and don't feel ashamed about talking about your child. I talk about Taylor all the time,
Yeah.
and if people make you feel uncomfortable because they're uncomfortable, then that's their problem,
Yeah.
And I definitely recommend, if you don't, choose Starlight as a support group. That if you've ever thought about doing a support group or anything like that, what's the hurt of, trying? It's not gonna hurt to try, give it a try and see if it's for you. Because you may get lucky and be blessed like I was, and develop friendships with some amazing people. So,
Well, and I want to go back to that too, because, I think early on, I had a lot of really great friends that were really close beside me. And I remember hearing people say, people will fall away.
mm-hmm,
And I thought, well, that's not going to happen to me.
mm-hmm,
That's not going to happen to my friends. My friends will always be there.
mm-hmm.
And it turns out that did happen to me, but I don't blame them for that.
Right.
I don't. I'm
Right.
not the same person I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
So it is fine that some of those friendships are not what they were before. Some of the friendships, they have kids that were Andy's friends and Andy's classmates, and that ends up being too painful for me. So part of it is me, right? I'm pulling away.
Mm-hmm.
But I have found my people
Yes.
in you, in so many of the other bereaved moms that I consider my dearest, closest friends. It's funny. I will talk about you guys to work. I think people think that you live close.
Yeah. Oh, I know. Totally.
Because you are amongst my very closest friends.
Yeah.
You really, truly are.
Yeah.
And so that feels normal and natural to talk about you. And so that's what I would say to people is try to find your people.
Yeah, find your people.
Because your people may be close in your community, and it may be that they live, 1,000 miles away.
Yes.
But reaching out to those people is just so important, and it's so healing to your heart. And I just feel like it can be such a lonely journey.
Oh,
Child loss can be so lonely. Especially, I can't imagine what things would have been like in that year too if I didn't have some of those relationships that I got with other bereaved moms.
For sure. I cannot tell you. I do the same at work. I talk about you guys all the time. Like everybody's like, where are y'all going this year? And they are just so. And it's funny because I was telling them, I had looked at for our upcoming trip together, I had looked at my flight and I was like, oh gosh, it's longer than I thought. And I was like, oh gosh, and here I am, you would think I'll be used to it. This is our 4th year getting together, flying by myself. I was like, man, what am I gonna do for that long flight? And I just happened, when we were uploading our itinerary, one of our friends is on the exact same flight. She has a layover here in Dallas, and we are going to be flying to our trip and back together. So I'm like, look at God. So, it's just crazy.
You know the flight that I'm going on, there are going to be 4 of us on that flight, 3 from Michigan, and then the 4th one, it's again the second leg of with the layover. Like, oh, it's awesome.
Yeah, I'm so excited, but I definitely, your friendships would change, but you will, may be surprised of how things just kind of play out. When I look back, I'm like, so many things have changed, but I've seen God work in so many amazing ways. And my friendship with you all has just been life-changing. I'm so blessed that Starlight brought us together.
And I have to say that's continuing to happen. So we've got our group that no one is still like a regular participant in that. Because like I said, it's a 2-year curriculum. Although, 4 of them in that group now facilitate groups.
Right.
Which I think you should do. Hint, hint. But,
I
whatever.
thought about that too. That's a whole nother thing. I actually have thought about that.
But anyway, so they facilitate groups. And I have to say, like, my current group now feels as tight and close as our, like, original I always call that the original group. But it feels just as close. we got together, getting together again. I mean, it's so bonding, and
Yes.
I just love the fact that Starlight is doing that and continuing to do that.
Yes.
So
Yes.
so I feel
Yep.
like I'm in like a couple different groups now, which is super fun for me.
Yeah.
And see, you could have that too.
And big thanks to Starlight. Yeah. I talk about Starlight a lot to my patients at the job because they see I wear a little pin that has Taylor's name on it in her handwriting. Some of my friends at work developed them as a fundraiser to help. And so tons of our nurses and staff have the little pin. And so they, it's always a question, like, well, who's Taylor and blah, blah, blah. So we get to talk about. And so then I talk about how I started Starlight. And so I just, it's funny because I tell you this all the time, you don't give yourself enough credit about how you, with this podcast, has changed so many people's lives. And it's the same with Starlight. Like it has just really directed, just kind of a little gentle nudge just by you saying, hey, I think you'll be great, and should join this. It has been just of like, okay, well, this is what's happening in this season. And man, look at these relationships and stuff. So you will find your way. It losing a child is devastating. And sometimes it feels like you are just so lost.
Yeah. And you feel like you're not going to survive it.
And not going to survive it. And I honestly thought I would not survive it. And I am. It may not be pretty, every day. But I'm surviving, and we're figuring it out as we go.
Yeah. I think about my friend Michelle and what she said and how I would say to her again and again and again. I don't know how many times I said this to her. I would say, Michelle, I can't do this.
Yeah.
She'd look at me and she'd say, Marcy, you are doing this.
Yeah, you are doing it. You are doing it.
You are doing this. So I say that to all of you today. You are doing this.
Mm-hmm.
And like you said, it may not be pretty.
Yeah.
But you are doing it.
You are doing it. You are doing it. Yeah.
Well, keep on doing it, Jam.
Yeah. You too.
I love you, sister.
My friend.
I love
you too. All right.
Thanks for listening. If you found this helpful and would like to support the podcast, please leave a 5-star rating and comment. To help financially, you can type Andy's Mom, one word, to the number 53555. This provides a link to GiveButter, which allows donations through PayPal, Venmo, Apple Pay, or credit cards. GiveButter will provide a receipt of your tax-deductible donation, or you can visit the donation page at andysmom.com/donate. Always Andy's Mom is a registered 501c3 and can receive donations through Thrivent Financial and Benevity. Marcy loves hearing from listeners. Please feel free to reach out to her via email at marcy@andysmom.com or on the Instagram or Facebook Always Andy's Mom accounts. Sign up for the email list to get weekly episode links as well as pictures of Marcy's guests and their children. Together, let's work to inspire hope, one day at a time.